100 max.
And Mike, I know it's kind of a segue, but I really want the audience to understand, why do we only have a couple hundred assessors? I mean, isn't this something fairly simple that people can go out, do some training, throw their shingle out there and say, hey, I'm an assessor, throw me your money?
The problem is it's costing them money.
Hi, I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
And welcome to this week's Cyber Sitrep.
That's right.
Dude, you're having a hard time already.
It's been a long couple of weeks.
Well, we always have a long week every time we do a cast, but I think this week's been especially long because you're losing it already. We don't have a chance of getting through this in one piece, but we're going to try it for our intrepid audience.
Yeah. I've been at conferences, learning things to be able to tell everyone, but at the same time, I don't know who I am.
A little bit of jet lag.
Yeah.
Plus, how many weeks behind are you on your emails at this point?
At least 2.
Oh, man.
Probably 40, but that's all right.
Yeah, so we were talking right before the recording that not only does he have one elephant in front of him, he has 2. And so, trying to pick which elephant to start with and then trying to take a bite and work your way through. Yeah, I don't envy you that, sir. So
it's all right.
So Mike, given that, you've been on all this travel and got all these customers coming out of the woodwork, what's our Sitrep topic today?
So today we're going to talk about CMMC assessments and how to be prepared for the sticker shock that may come to you, regardless of the size of your company, of what an assessment may cost you.
Right. And once again, Mike's going to lead on this because he is our C3PAO. He is in the Cyber AB marketplace. So he is legit and he knows what he's talking about. So, but Mike, I'm so glad you brought this up because literally there we were, no bleep. Last week, several of our customers had come to us and had said, hey, does this pricing sound realistic to you for an independent assessment? They'd reached out through the Cyber AB to the marketplace and wanted to see how much an independent assessment would cost. And I had to be sitting down when they told me, but the costs were ranging literally from $50,000 to over $100,000 for an independent assessment. And at first, my initial reaction is probably like everybody else, like that is complete and utter horse pucky, right?
Yep.
But as it turns out, there's a reason for all this, and Mike's going to explain that to us. And it's still high, and yes, it's going to be painful and hurt, but there is a reason at least behind it, right?
Exactly.
For this all going on. So you want to kick us off on that?
Sure. So to start, again, if you look out at the Cyber AB, which is the CMMC accreditation board, they have a marketplace. A quick scroll through the marketplace, you'll realize there's only 60 companies now authorized.
We're up to 60. It was 57 just a little while ago. So kudos. Cool. 3
We're
more.
Slowly moving up. So there are 60 companies accessible.
For how many contractors that are going to be in scope?
They estimated in the first go-round they wanted 100 to 150,000.
In the first round, okay, to be independently assessed by those 60 plus companies.
That's right. So year 1, everyone can self-assess, but by year 2, they're going to have to get into the assessments. So of course, that 150, break it up into those 2 years, do some now, some later. It's still $75,000 a year for 60 companies.
Right.
Maybe 100 by next year if we're lucky.
Right. So to my lizard brain, that means we have a scarcity problem, right? And anytime you have a scarcity issue, then the cost of services is going to go up, right? Classic supply and demand. So that's ding number 1 or reason number 1, right? Why and then costs are going to be through the roof.
Us 3CPOs, as a 3CPO, we have to hire certified assessors. So the CMMC certified assessors, which they're on the marketplace. And that pool is also very small, couple hundred. Maybe 300-400 max.
And Mike, I know it's kind of a segue, but I really want the audience to understand, why do we only have a couple hundred assessors? I mean, isn't this something fairly simple that people can go out, do some training, throw their shingle out there and say, hey, I'm an assessor, throw me your money?
The problem is it's costing them money. The typical training is anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 for CCP, which is the CMMC certified practitioner, which you need to get before you become the CCA, which is the certified assessor.
Right. So 2 certs minimum, right?
2 certs minimum. Guarantee you have to take the training. There's no like I just studied on my own, so I want to take
right.
the test.
No challenge exam, right? You have to go through the whole process, which I understand that. I mean, this is kind of it is a big ecosystem. I understand that. But also, as far as in addition to training, aren't there experience requirements and additional certification requirements for people that want to be CCPs or CCAs?
That's right. So for a CCP, it's no requirement other than experience. You can throw experience through a resume.
Okay.
CCA, there's experience plus you need to be a minimum of a CompTIA Security Plus. There's a list of other certs.
Or equivalents, and those are in line with the DoD 8140, which is on the government side. Those are all those advanced certifications you have to have if you touch a system with administrative privilege, right? Basically, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's a security requirement matrix, right?
Absolutely. And then, so we take that it's expensive for them to get the certs. So then, of course, their rates are higher. We have to hire them. There's not a lot of them, so they know they can charge a premium rate. Because again, this is something we have to consider. This is year one. This is 0 day for CMMC. So any first adopter has to end up paying a little more because there's just not the ecosystem to support it.
You said a little more with a straight face. That's funny.
Yeah, it's a lot more. But it's not just somebody trying to gouge you. I would say they're out there. Right. Again, because we saw those prices anywhere from 50 to 125 up. Mm-hmm. But again, it is also size and scope.
Absolutely.
But we started with a concept of what do we price for the small business, and we wanted to keep it down. But then we looked at the fees that we are charged as a 3CPO.
So there's factor 2.
We are charged. Can't get into the specific amounts, but they're extreme.
Yeah,
they're excessive.
They are not inexpensive.
That's right.
Once again, my jaw hit the floor when I saw that. And once again, I think the rationale behind that is because it's a small community and they are a nonprofit, they being the Cyber AB.
Right.
They need to survive, and to do that, they rely on the people in the Cyber AB marketplace as their ecosystem until they can build a broad enough base to get those fees down.
And that's kind of what they told us. As more people join the ecosystem, the pricing will go down. Right. But again, if we're going to be the first adopters, you're the first adopters, we're all first adopters on this CMMC train, it's expensive. It's more expensive than maybe what it will be 3 years from now, 4 years from now. Right. The other thing is how an assessment is carried out is dictated. So we need to have a lead assessor.
So is that factor 3 now?
Yep, that's factor 3.
Okay. So you can't have just one person do the assessment is what you're saying?
No.
To save costs and money and all that.
We found a minimum of 3.
Okay. Three positions.
3 assessors. Wow. So that's 3 CCAs. However, the lead CCA has more requirements under the AB, so they're expected to be paid at a higher premium than a normal CCA.
That's fair.
They also lead the assessment, so
kind
of course,
the subject matter expert, right?
Exactly, the project manager, if you will, of the assessment. Mm-hmm. And then you have the assessor that helps, another CCA to help, and then they have a quality position, some position that has to go through and verify all the data at the end of every day, and then that person is the one who finalizes the report and approves it, and says, yes, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. Then we have to upload that to EMAS. So there's a person that has to upload it to EMAS.
And once again, acronym watch, EMAS is the Enterprise
Mission Assurance
System. Thank you. Yeah. EMAS. And that is the big database that Department of Defense has been using for a long time that all of the different service branches use. They have their own flavor of it. It's the same thing for CMMC. There's an EMAS instance. It's a big database, cloud-based database in the sky. Right. And that's where all the results are put and maintained, right?
That's correct.
For assessments.
That's right. So then that finalizes your whole, assessment. So if you add 3 high-level, highly, billable assessors, someone that could be a lower level from our company to do the actual uploads, but that person has to do it from a company computer.
Right.
We can save costs because that's something I would just do because it's there. Sure. But in a bigger company, that's now effectively 4 people
Okay. And then the other, I guess the fourth, I'm trying to keep track here.
Yep,
I only have so many
4.
fingers. But number 4 is the amount of time it takes to do a proper assessment, right? So
that's right.
This isn't something a lot of companies think that, I can get this done in 5 days and we're good to go. Because I'm a really small organization, Mike. I only have 3 users, so it should only take you 5 days. And we know that not to be true.
Right.
And in your experience as a Citrep PO, what do you think an average
We're looking
time?
at 70 hours, 60 to 80 hours, 70 being kind of our sweet spot to get it done. But again, 4 people,
right?
They're not all working all 70 hours, but...
And once again, I think he's being generous with that because that is for smaller organizations.
That's
right?
our low level.
That's your absolute bare minimum.
That's right.
One system.
and the reason for that is we have 320 objectives that have to be answered.
Right.
So,
but hold on, Mike. Hold on. I know this is another Sitrep, but there's only 110
controls.
CMMC controls. So what's this craziness you're talking about with objectives? Over 300? How does that work?
So for each control, there is a sub-objective. That is a control, the first control, 311 for access control, comes with 311A, 311B, 311C,
all
objectives.
The way through F, which I believe is 6 sub-elements. Only reason I know that is I was just doing a spreadsheet earlier this week where I needed to start cataloging that. And my jaw, once again, my jaw is unhinged this week. It's hit the ground so many times that, I can't keep up. But so over 300 elements there. Once again, 70, 80 hours on the conservative side times 4.
So, and how the process will work is there's phase 1. Phase 1 of an assessment is where we take your documentation and your artifacts, and we don't give them a met, not met. We really give it a review as, has it been answered? Did you give me an answer for 311A through F?
Yep.
I'm not looking at the answer to see if it's the answer or a correct answer, just did you answer it? Yeah, if you've answered them all, then we can move to phase 2.
Got it.
And phase 2 is where the assessment begins. And then we have to go through all of those controls, look at all your evidence, determine what we feel has been met or not met. We consider it trending met or trending not met, because then we get into, which could be a 40-hour block, depending on the size of the company and where you are.
Right.
But it could anywhere from 20 to 40 hours of the interviews, the physical checks on site, those kind of things. And so when we're talking about the 50,000 to 125, that often doesn't include that travel piece.
Right, absolutely.
Which is just an add-on of it will cost you our per diem, if we're there for a day.
And so a couple military terms there, right? Let's go back real quick. So phase 1, where the company sends you the data. In the military world, we call that intelligence preparation of the battlefield, IPB. So that helps you kind of frame out, what kind of assessment you're going to have, right? And then this whole thing with per diem and travel, Government Services Administration, GSA, has a per diem schedule, and it's basically a daily stipend that you get when you're on travel, right, for meals, incidentals, and expenses. MID is what they call that. Exactly. Daily rate. And then there's also a lodging rate there as well. So that's all included. That's all full freight, right, for an assessment.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. you would have to, depending on where you are and where your assessors are coming from. Right. Luckily, we've tried to get CCAs and people from around the country to reduce those costs by saying we'll send someone localer, more localer. That's
closer. Localer, closer.
I like localer. I'm creating English words.
And you once again, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but being on the other side from the implementation side, that's really important that Mike's letting you guys know that, because when you eventually need to get an independent assessment, that's one of those qualifying factors or criteria you should use is to see what geographic distance is between you and the C3PAO that is closest to you, that obviously is reputable, that can help you cut those costs down, because those travel costs, true story, I just did a travel estimate for one of our government customers, and I haven't traveled in probably about a year or so.
Sticker shock.
I couldn't believe it. Once again, my jaw, I had to have it wired before our my employee Nate had to help me with that to get my jaw fixed up, because one person for a 6-day trip counting all those things we talked about, airfare, car, blah blah blah, was over $3,000.
Yep.
And that was with no profit or fee or anything put on there. That was just raw cost from the airlines and the hotel chains and everybody themselves.
That's right.
Just basic cost for one person for 6 days. And you're saying 70 to 80 hours. So, let's just be generous and say you guys have 4 of those trips. That's $12,000 right there.
Yeah,
that need to get added on to the cost for that assessment.
Our hope is to send one.
Right, smart.
A single person
so
to do the physical stuff while the other people can do it remotely.
Awesome. So this is definitely a C3PAO you want to keep in your corner
down.
there, right? And I think once again, knowing what I know about you and Digital Beachhead, it's because you guys are a small company servicing other small companies,
That's right.
and you know what it's like to have a limited budget, right? So he's taking that into account.
Very limited budget.
Exactly for your clients, right? And that's a great thing. So, and once again, I don't know any other C3POs. I hope they're all doing the same thing, but use that as your criteria, right? Those could be some of those hidden costs.
And that's what I want to talk about too. Is how should you pick your 3CPO?
Yeah. So, Mike, how should we? Yeah.
Just pick me.
Other than being
wink,
in the
wink,
marketplace,
just pick
right?
Me, but
because they have to be in the marketplace.
They have to be in the marketplace
for it to count as an assessment.
They have to be in the marketplace. Right. There are some, and we were one that were candidate 3CPOs.
Okay.
And I passed my DIBCAC, meaning I passed the government exam. I passed my level 2.
So
but I was still just
acronym,
a candidate.
Got to interrupt you though. DIBCAC. We got to define
the
every
defense
acronym.
Industry-based certification and
close.
No.
So I think it's Defense Industrial Based Cybersecurity Assessment Center.
That's the one.
DIBCAC. Whew, man. Okay, so back to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you were a candidate, meaning that you had to pass a DIBCAC assessment,
That's right.
which is the federal government, right?
Right.
Assessing the assessors.
We've been assessed by the
right.
DoD directly.
And that's really important for everyone to realize is that the assessors don't assess themselves.
Nope.
Right? They
Not
have
at
to
all.
be, so the assessors have to be assessed by the government, the DIBCAC in this case, and then the assessors that are in that pool that have been cleared by DIBCAC and Cyber AB then get to assess everyone else, right?
That's correct. And you can be in this limbo of we have a certificate from the DoD saying we've passed the level 2 exam, but we still have to get through the Cyber AB, and they have their criteria, their fees, those things. So we know of some candidates that are just still kind of in that limbo space. We were fortunate enough to get through it. Now we have the official, documentation. But that would be question number one is, can we find you on the marketplace? Right. Or, to be fair, do you have your certificate or letter from the DIBCAC saying you passed? And when do you expect to be? It could be a couple of weeks. It could be a month. But you don't want to necessarily write them off.
Well, and
they're not official
yet. That's good to know, Mike. Right? If somebody's reaching out or they get solicited and somebody says, "Hey, I'm a candidate, but here's my letter," then that holds some weight, right?
Right.
So it's not them trying to pull a fast one on you. It's them saying, "Hey, we're caught up in this machine, and we're trying to get through the other side." Right.
Right. My only advice there would be don't book them, in a sense of. Get your pricing, start doing your due diligence, give them that acceptance. But until they hit the marketplace, they can't officially do anything for you.
Good point.
So just be like, hey, we're going to probably go with you. Let us know the minute you get, your certificate authorization. And then a lot of people are booking out. So that's the things I would say consider. Are they local? Are they within your budget? The best, again, we know budget is kind of gone out the window, but are they affordable? Are they not too affordable? We're hearing of some 3CPOs that are going very cheap, which could be true.
Okay.
But I haven't heard any, I haven't talked to any myself.
Okay.
And again, I'd be concerned if they say they could do it in 5 hours.
Gotcha.
You might get a cert, but I would
right, and odds are probably not, right? Because you got that quality check in there that is that's kind of the dual hat the quality person wears, right?
If you saw our spreadsheet for when we came up with this pricing that we were able to give people, it is extensive, and
he can't show me because he'd have to kill me. Everybody, it's no, seriously, you have to protect that information.
We do
as part of the C3PAO community, so that's not public common knowledge. I get it, I understand, and he's not going to tell me either. I wouldn't ask him, and he's not going to tell me.
But it's there.
Right.
And so like we plug in the numbers, and I just don't see how a 5-hour assessment can happen because there's 320 controls. I can't ask you 320 questions in that
no way.
amount of time.
I just finished an assessment for a government customer we did 119 controls this year as part of they have a 3-year cycle, so it's their FedRAMP moderate, they are NIST moderate baseline, right? So over 300 plus controls. So we do about a third of them every year. So myself, I did all the interviews myself, 20 people, took me 3.5 weeks.
So.
Right, and that's just for 119 controls. That's not the 300 you're talking about.
Right.
So once again, the math just doesn't work. I get you there. You're starting to talk me off the edge here. I'm not quite so shocked with this. It's just
and
it's
prices,
crazy the amount of detail, right? That's in this whole
and the
thing.
prices will come down when there's more competition, but not just the competition. There'll be more people in the ecosystem, so our fees will go down.
Sure.
There'll be more auditors out there, so they won't be able to charge the same that they're charging now. You know what I mean? The whole ecosystem will mellow.
And having gone through the predecessor to all this, the risk management framework, when that got turned on, it was a really crazy start. It was really slow, took a lot of time, and we've seen efficiencies gained year over year. Tools get better, people get more educated on what they need to do, and now it's I would say it's a lot faster than it used to be. So I think the same thing will probably happen with CMMC.
Absolutely.
Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to mellow out, but it'll take a few years, just like any new system.
Yeah.
And then I would say the last thing to look out for when you're looking for a 3CPO is, are they agreeable with your scope?
Yes, which is the question I was going to pepper you with. But once again, you've got this whole psychic thing. You read my mind. So what do you mean by that?
So the scope is what you're expecting to be audited. What is your assessment scope? It may not be your entire enterprise. It could be an enclave. But that understanding between you and the 3CPO is how we're going to base our hours. If you have 4 locations and 400,000 computers, but your scope is we have Jim and his laptop over there because he's the only person in the company who deals with CUI, controlled unclassified information, that's going to be a lot quicker than 100,000 people over 4 locations.
I have to say this, Mike, because I know we're going to have people that think this way, that they think evil, saying, hey, I can just, say I have a subset to save some money, but really I have a lot more than that that's really in scope, right? Don't be those people that do that, because here's the catch, right? We learned this when we were doing the entry-level CCP training, is that, to Mike's point, once you agree on scope, that's what you're going to be assessed at, right? For good or worse, it doesn't matter. And that's what the C3PAO is going to attest to, saying this was our scope. Now, if you, the contractor, have an incident and you need to be investigated for, handling CUI, et cetera, and it comes out that you lied about that scope, then you're the one in trouble, not the C3PAO, because they're going off of what you told them contractually, and it's your butt that's in jeopardy, and you will be sued under the False Claims Act, right?
Exactly.
We've already seen that happen. Scope. No, you can't once you lock in, because that puts you at risk as the assessor.
Exactly.
Right? So please don't do that. And if you need to spend a little more time up front determining that scope, spend the hours to do that. It'll make your life a lot easier. And here's the catch, right, is most of the C3PO community people I know are willing to give you pointers and advice on what they think should be in scope based on what they're seeing. So take their advice, heed it, do it, right? And if you don't, you better have a really good reason for not doing that. Because here's the other thing. They're going to annotate that as well, saying we told the customer that we thought the scope was 10 systems, but they swore it was only 4. So we annotate that, we move on, we only look at those 4 systems. Don't do that. You're setting yourself up for failure. Please don't be one of those people trying to cut corners.
And if you're unsure, don't come to us, the 3CPO, yet. Go to someone like Eric and his company and say, can you review these 320 controls with us one by one?
Right, we'd love to.
So that way we can give you a nod.
And because we're not part of that community, we can do it a lot more affordably because we don't have all those fees and things that we need to pay for that. So, okay. So, Mike, one other thing, just one last point that I'd like to get your opinion on before we close out is we're talking about qualifying the C3PO that's right for you. So one of the things that we thought would make a lot of sense is making sure, in addition to scope, that the C3PO is well versed in your technology that you have. For instance, if you're a cloud-centric company or you're all cloud, right, or conversely, you're all on premise, right? Because we have seen there's different degrees of expertise out there for the different architecture types, and I think it would save some pain up front if you could vet that. If you're a cloud-centric company, meaning you run everything in cloud, if your C3PO can talk that and is really good at that, I think you're going to have a much better time at your assessment, right? Save
Absolutely.
some money,
and
everything else.
We've broken it down by like, are you a VDI environment? Are you cloud? Do you have an MSP?
VDI.
A virtual desktop environment?
Interface, yeah.
Interface.
VDI, yeah. Victor, Delta, India.
Yeah, and an MSP, managed service provider. So are you under a managed service provider? And is that managed service provider have a CMMC level 2 that's more secure than just an MSP that doesn't have their own level 2? Not that you can't get approved, it's just we have to dig deeper on their access and their controls, where if they've already passed, that's kind of inherited. So
Mike, once again, I lied. I have one final question because it brings it up. What is the agreed upon protocol if somebody that is a prospective customer needed to call you or another C3PO just to kind of get some ground truth? Is that a gratis thing? Is that just a T&M thing where you pay an hourly rate? I mean, what does that look like?
For the actual assessments? Or?
No, not for the assessment, just to kind of know what they don't know, right? Ask those kind of questions.
Well, the
pre-stage 1 stuff, I bet.
The pre-stage 1 is difficult because we can't help you get ready. So if you wanted us to do like we kind of offered that, hey, go through you guys, they can come to us and we can give them it's not even a pre-assessment, a readiness assessment, I will call it, where we go through, and again, we're not going to go, did you meet it or not meet it? It's more of a, did you answer the question? So kind of doing phase 1 ahead of time, and the reason you may want to do that and pay that fee is if you do a phase 1 and we find that you have not answered all the questions, we have to report that. That is a reportable item up through that EMAS database that company A, we went to phase 1, did not get past phase 1.
Understand.
So you have that in the official record, if you will, like in school. It'll be on your permanent record.
Right. Well, and EMAS is going to be there forever.
Right.
It's 20 plus years going strong. Wow. Okay. So Mike, anything else on that whole? We get it. It's going to cost a lot. I think the too long didn't read summary is that it's going to be initially high and that over time it will go down. But to Mike's point about scarcity, if you have a need to be assessed because you've been told by your government customer that we really need you to have that, then you need to get in line now.
Right.
Because of that scarcity issue, right?
Exactly. We're booking already through the summer. So, if you need to get, or your company is hoping, we know a lot of executives now are pushing the IT department saying, get this.
Right.
And they're like, we're not quite there yet.
Right, exactly.
But you may want to get on our books, get scheduled out for October, whatever it may be. Just if you're not ready, but you have ramp to get ready, book now, because you can't just book last minute. It won't work.
Right. Well, because there's not enough people to go around, right? So, okay. All right, Mike, would you like to close this out, sir?
Sure. So, again, if you're looking for a 3CPO, do your due diligence. And I want to tell you that we are coming to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast Studio at the Next Us, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. And we're glad to be here. Remember to like and follow. We want to know your thoughts, so be sure to leave comments as well.
And especially for this cast, if you have any questions, let us know. We know it's fairly complex, and we'd love to answer those for you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Take care.